Welcome and welcome and welcome and welcome and welcome. 50 great short stories. And let's get this started with today. We're actually doing our 5th great short story. Yay! Celebration. And yeah, let's just go ahead. First of all, today's short story is called The Other Side of the Hedge. Let's get this started with. Now, firstly, this is actually a pretty interesting story in itself. It's where basically you think of science, but then you minus the logic, which is basically what makes science science. So you take science, you take out the logic. What is that anyway? So basically, it's just going to question us about science and other things. But for now, let's just go ahead and go on with the story. So basically, to be honest, there's no name for this guy, our main character, who just calls himself my or I. Also, we're pretty sure he's a boy. He just goes ahead and he had his pedometer, which apparently is the thing that measures your distance. And anyways, it said that he was scoring at a 25, whatever that means. And then, as shockingly, saying as thing like just stop walking that right then, he just stopped right there, and everyone else past him was like, yeah, and jeered at him, saying, you should keep going, lazy bones. Even the educator, the instructor, basically said, hey, you know what? I think you should go ahead. You need exercise for your muscles. You need to keep working out, or else you will go ahead and fail. And he's all like, yeah, sure, I'll keep on doing that. Thanks for the advice. Okay, but he just stays there. And then he decides that, and he noticed something beyond the edge. He's like, boop. He's all like, oh, what's that over there? What's behind my head? And like, but I don't want to leave my comfort of this hedge. Hey, but then again, I have curiosity. Is it worth all the tiring exercise? Yes, it is. And he yields to the temptation. He's like, and he arrives there, and he's like, and he falls into a lake. Well, at least I think it's a lake, because it just describes a large body of water. He goes in, he's like, translation, help me, except this is underwater. And that all happens, and the next thing you know that happens, well, at least he says he knows, is that, hey, I saved your life. Now you're going to help me. Yeah, he meets a guy, and he's pretty sure he's drunk, and also pretty sure he's in a dream. That all happens, and he realizes, hey, you know what? I'm probably in the wrong dimension. Go ahead to that place, and so I guess I'll have to say bye. That happens, and later off, this happens too later, like a little puff of air that happens, and of course lots of things started reviving him. Of course, he wakes up and he realizes this guy said, okay, literally lots of people came here and we taught them things. That there's not just one path. This is not your part of the path. This is your part of the path. You get to choose the path. And he's like, nonsense. Wherever humanity goes, the rest of humanity follows. I mean, even in my short little lifetime, I've seen a bunch of advancements, and they're all like, okay, you know what? Yeah. And he's like, I am a proof. Here's my pedometer. Oh, wait, it's still at 25. I was going to say that would increase every time, like every meter I walked with you. Things like that don't actually work here. Science stuff. One person brought in a watch and it didn't tick. Oh, really? He checked his watch. It didn't tick. Oh, must have been the water that clogged it and broken it. Can you fix it? And he tried, and he doesn't even bother fixing it, to be honest, because all he does is make that excuse. And the next thing that happens is that, hey, you're awesome. I'll give you that. But here's one little failure that I'm going to have to give you. So what happens? And more things start happening. And boom, bum, boom, bum, boom, bum, bing, bum, boom, bum, 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 yay! Then the weirdest things in life actually starts happening here too. The thing about this is that, well, this guy, which just calls himself I or my, just goes ahead and starts describing science to this guy, saying, nonsense, it must have logic. And he's like, well, here it's not logic. So think about it. What's science without the logic? What is that then? Magic? I guess it's probably magic. People used to think that it was magic. Nowadays, we just added the logic part, the actual logic part, and then we came up with science, which is pretty interesting and a really good subject in his own area, and I highly recommend you to study. And then, when he woke up from his drunkenness, and at least he went to sleep from his drunkenness, he realized the person he was talking to this whole time was his brother. What? Alright, so what do you actually learn from the story? There's not much you can actually learn from the story, to be honest. All I actually see is a little hypothetical thought experiment saying, what would happen if science had no logic, to be honest. That's what I see. But then it also goes into the moral issue. So my guess of what we learn from this is that, what would life be if it didn't have as a key points? What would, if a chocolate bar did not have cocoa beans and sugar, would it still be chocolate? No, of course not. If a book did not have the leather cover, but it still had the pages, would it be a book? Sort of. If a phone did not have the metal inside, then would the semiconductors inside, would it be a phone? Sort of, but it wouldn't work. Yeah, that's actually what it sings. Like, the key components are what makes the sing that sing. And it's also usually the sing that makes that sing work. And without the semiconductors inside a phone, that phone would technically not be a phone anymore. It would look like a phone because we know what a phone is, but when you try to use it, it just doesn't work like one. So debating here, is it actually a phone? Probably not. And that's actually pretty much a really good hypothetical experiment here too. But what about the moral issues? There are other things you actually learn here, including like those moral issues. Those moral issues being that, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna have to go ahead and start finding you and decommissioning you, and goes ahead and then a goal goes ahead and lines up and piles up and piles and piles and piles up all the way to just finding out that sometimes some things are just worth sacrificing while others aren't. And most of the time, if someone asks you to sacrifice your family for the greater good, and that person's probably part of a cult, or just basically a literal person who just believes in a good cause, but or makes himself look like he's in a good cause, but is actually not in a good cause. That's actually what I actually learned from this. To be honest, I probably won't be actually using any of these lessons. I will probably be I believe in logic. I'm an atheist. I'm a devout atheist, and I'll teach other people. If I have offspring, and if like I don't know, 20 years later, that I'll probably teach them to be atheists too. And pretty much that's about it. That sings. What makes a sing that sing? If you take away the sing that makes that sing, then would it still be that thing? Like, if you take away the as I already mentioned earlier, if you take away the semiconductors in a phone, would it still be a phone? If it can't work like a phone, but it looks like a phone, does it count as a phone? At least if it looks like a phone to you, does it mean it looks like a phone to someone else? Yeah, those are all very hypothetical and philosophical questions, but I'm not going to answer. So hopefully you guys actually did enjoy this episode. I hope to see you guys soon. Until next time, Shana, now, peace. Bye-bye! And peace.